Right. So there's the mat. Just putting that down. I'm coming to the edge. Now then, we'll do a little bit of work standing first, as ever, and then we'll come down onto the mat and do a lot of work from lying on our back. Maybe a little bit, if we have time, a little bit of work lying on our side as well. If you feel your balance isn't up to it, then make sure you've got a chair or a wall or something that you can hang on to if you need to. And then we'll start setting up our posture the same way we always do. So feet turned out to 45 degrees, follow with the heels, and then a quick check in on the feet, 2 fist distance apart, and the feet are parallel. And from that position, just feel your weight. So you can move your weight from your heels to your toes and settle so that you've got an equal distribution between the toes and the heels. And then move your way up into the hips and just start to tilt the pelvis back and forth. And I think whenever I start these classes, I always say, oh, I find this so hard. And I do, I find it really hard to mobilize that lower part of my back. It just doesn't want to move. But that will get better as we go on. So I'm just going to tuck that right under, tighten the tummy, tighten the pelvic floor. And you know that you're meant to be doing that as often as you can. So let's do it together now. That feeling of stopping yourself peeing. So that all down here feels tight and like you're working. Then roll the shoulders round, back and down, and just ease the chin back slightly so that the ear sits over the shoulder, hip and ankle. And then finally we start to breathe. Now in that position, your weight is going right through the middle of your foot, if you know what I mean, right between the front and back of your foot, right into the correct place in your back, tighten the center. So if you were to always stand like this, then we should avoid any achy backs or shoulders or necks. On your next in-breath, start to bring up one arm, and it's just going to come up, pause there, out to the side, and then into the leg. So the other one, we breathe in and out. Now I'm only bringing my arm to shoulder height to begin with, and that's so that I start to mobilize the shoulder, and so that I can find the control to move my arm by moving my shoulder rather than by lifting my ribs. Here we go. If that feels okay, let's do one more to balance the sides. I'm going to bring the arms down to the side and just start that little side bend, dropping one way and then the other. Now again, I can only go on what I know I tend to do. So where I go wrong is that I have a tendency here to lean back and push my legs forward. So if I think about running my middle finger down the side of my leg towards my ankle bone, that helps me stay centered. Here we go, equal number again to each side. And then this time we're going to bring both arms up in front and fold the arms. Little twist one way and then a twist the other way. And it's about warming up the spine and getting the back to start working a little, but also those oblique muscles down the side of the tummy. And again, keep thinking about the pelvic floor. Keep thinking about being tight in the center. There we go. Equal number to each side. And then from there, just ease the elbows back and then back into the center. So we breathe in and squeeze, breathe out and fold. Breathe in and squeeze and fold. Now, if that feels okay, make sure that you feel the shoulder blades moving, that you're still tight in the center, and that you're breathing in and out. One more time. There we go. And then relax the arms down. Now from here, we're going to go through that movement, bringing the arm forward, but we're going to do them both at once. So breathe in and out. And we'll go again. Breathe in and out. And now it's a little more difficult to not lift the rib cage. It's also making you stretch a little bit more across the chest. So if it's too much, don't do it. You can go back to doing one arm at a time. And remember that, especially while we're online, and it can get a little bit tricky to keep following, make sure that you do roughly 8 repetitions. Okay, that'll see you right. So if you can stay with 8 or 4 on each side, that will keep it right. Now, this is the last one, and we're going to open the arms and keep them open. Now, if that makes your shoulders ache, then go back to having your arms folded. Once again, I'm going to twist. First one way and then the other. Now, this is technically, if you like, a little bit more difficult because it's very tempting to move the arms. It also makes the shoulders ache just a little bit, so we try to avoid that. Once more, each side, so we've done 4 to each side, keeping those hips still, and then come back into the center and bring the arms together. Breathe in and pull the arms apart. Now, again, if your shoulders are aching too much, then go back to having the elbows bent. But if you can do it with the arms straight, then you'll get more mobility into the shoulder blades and you'll get more stretch across the chest. Let's do another 3 to make the 8. And again, that 8 is arbitrary. I'm not saying you must do 8 or you're wasting your time. 8 is a rough guide, yeah? Then bring those fingertips together and pull them in. Let's do that little bit of work in the shoulders. We've done this many times before. We push the elbows together and then we pull them apart. And this is a really good way to heat up the shoulders and the upper back. So we've got an in breath as the hands rise and an out breath as they fall. Let's do 4 more. Breathing in and out. Last 3. And try to get the elbows to join up and rise as high as you can before you come back down. Now this time, let's circle them out and release the shoulders round and down. And just roll your shoulders. So I want you to just make a small circle with the shoulders, going backwards initially, and then change direction and come forwards with the shoulders. Now, 4 in each direction. Now, if that feels easy, let's make it a little bit harder. We're going backwards, but this time I'm going to do my whole arm. Still a small circle, but instead of leading with the shoulders, I'm drawing the circle with my fingertips. There's 4 going backwards, and then change direction, do 4 coming forwards. Now, if that feels easy, then repeat it again. But if it's too much already, then go back to just moving the shoulders instead of the whole arm. And then come back 4 in each direction. So it's just a little shoulder circle. And again, 4 backwards and 4 forwards. And while you're doing this, and your shoulders will start to ache, we do 4 sets of 4. It's a lot. Keep the tummy nice and tight. Try to keep the shoulders down, and that's the tricky bit. And as you finish your 4 times 4, little maths test there, Then relax the arms down and let the shoulders just shake out. Now, from there, we're going to do a little bit of work on the lower body, give our shoulders a breather, let them relax a little. And we start by lifting the heel. First one heel and then the other. And I want you to concentrate on your toes. So as you push your foot into the floor, you're really bending your toes. And for some of us, that might just be really uncomfortable, and in which case, don't push so hard and just focus on moving the knee. And then from there, as ever, we try to move both legs up once. So we bend both knees and then we straighten. Tailbone is still tucked under. So I'm not trying to push back in a squat. I'm keeping that knee bend, focusing on the ankle and the calf. And we're going to do a little bit more work on that. Right, there's the last one. And then resetting your standing position. See if as you breathe out, and you may want to do this 1 foot at a time, rise up onto tiptoes. If you prefer, you may find that lifting one heel, lifting the other, and then straightening your legs is a little bit easier than going straight up onto tiptoes. But either way, when you rise and your legs straighten, make sure that you're squeezing in at the tummy, squeezing the bum and the hamstrings, and it'll help to fix your eyes on the horizon. So I've got a plant that I'm looking at in the distance above your head, like that, yeah? And that helps me stay on tiptoes just a moment longer than I might, okay? Now, when again, we've done roughly 8, and you should feel your calves and your bum and hamstrings doing a little bit of work, then let's see what it's like to balance on one leg. And if you're not confident, then position yourself near something on which you can get a little bit of support. And there's one leg up in the air. Doesn't matter where you position that thigh just now. I want you just to see what it feels like standing on one leg. And then when you've done one leg, just try the other leg. If I bring my knee up, I can concentrate on that supporting leg. Squeezing the bum, squeezing the hamstring, big toe, little toe, and heel taking the weight. Tummy tight, pelvic floor switched on, and shoulders back and down. Now, if that feels okay, then we're going to add a little movement. And the first movement is going to be to rotate the ankle. Now, we've just warmed that up with a few squats and heel pedals and tiptoes. So let's just draw a circle now with the big toe. When you've done a few on one side, and that's, obviously a metric few rather than an imperial few, just however many you like, really. Just feel that ankle and feel the position that feels different, feels challenging. So to me, it's really easy to turn my foot in, turning my foot out much harder. Now, when you move back to the first leg, we're going to do a little bit of work on the thigh here. So I'm going to bring that knee up. How high it comes is up to you. And then I want you to straighten and bend that leg. I could do that really low, almost skimming my toe along the floor. Or I can bring my knee up to hip height and do it here. If I don't hold on, then obviously I have to work my core a lot harder. Anywhere between 4 and 8 repetitions here, just to feel that thigh doing the work, but also into the hips. When you've done your repetitions, then switch legs and do the same thing on the other side. Now, for me, this is already going to be harder because I struggle to balance on my left leg. And as ever, and I know I've said this to you before, just because it's difficult doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. It means I should practice it more. That's what that means. And I don't know if you can see or if you feel the same, but for me, that leg's a little bit wobbly. The leg I'm standing on is kind of trembling slightly. When you've done your 8, reset the feet. Now, we're going to add in a little bit of upper body work. So I'm going to put all my weight in one leg and bring the knee up as high or as low as you want it. And then I'm going to fold the arms. I'm going to turn my upper body in the direction of my raised knee and then back to the center. And as I twist my body, I'm going to try and straighten the leg. Now that's obviously much harder. So let's only do maybe 3 or 4 here. And if it's too much, then don't do it. You can keep the leg still. You can put the leg back down and do the twist, or you can just ignore the twist and just go with the leg, with the kick once again. Let's go with the other leg now then. Let's see how this is when I stand on this leg. So I'm going to extend and twist. There. And obviously, when your arms are folded and you're twisting, you're not able to hold on. So if you're really struggling with this, then just focus in on the leg or focus on the twist and put both legs down. Doesn't really matter. Now let's get that 4 or 5 repetitions done. Oh, yes. And then reset the feet. Right, we've got one more little stretch to do. And I'd like you to just take a deep breath in and bring the arms out to the side. Then as you breathe out, fold forward and just tap your knees. Breathe in and take the arms out. Now, as I take my arms out, I'm starting to lean back. Breathe out as you come forward. Breathe in as you go back. There we go. So forward and back. And then the bigger the movement, so you can bring your arms higher if you want to, the more you bend your spine. But for some of us, if that's too much, if you're nursing injuries in the back, if your spine is slightly damaged, then be careful. You don't need to do this. Now, last one, when you're ready, you'll circle the arms out and down. And we're going to come to the mat from now on. So if you want to move your screen, I'm just going to drop mine down a little bit so you can see the mat more easily. Move that forward a touch. There we go. And then come onto your back on the mat. All right, let's do it. Here we go. So dropping down to the floor, onto our backs or onto our bums at least to start with. So we'll start on our bottoms and then make our way onto our backs in a second or two. Remember, if you think you're going to need a cushion, so if you're more comfortable sitting on a cushion, so sticking a cushion under your bum, or you think you're going to need one under your head in a minute. Yes, I'm like demonstrating what a cushion looks like behind your head. Why am I doing that? If you need a cushion, then grab one. Otherwise, I'll leave my demonstrations and just stop that. Sit up nice and tall on your, or right up on your sitting bones. And then I'd like you to just put your hands behind you. Now, if that's uncomfortable, remember that not much of your weight should be going through your hands. The majority of your weight is in your bum and your legs. So just a little bit of weight in your hands to make you comfortable. And then drop the knees from side to side. Okay, that's it. So we're getting that little bit of a twist. And again, I think I've said to you before, but for me, keeping my chest still here and dropping the knees from side to side. One side feels really easy. That way, easy. This way, my legs can't go quite so far. When you've done an equal number to each side, and we aim roughly 4 or 5 on each side, then I'd like you to just open your collarbone. So it's like I'm sticking my chest out and pushing my chest towards my knees, lifting my chin, and I'm going to stretch across the chest. Then I'm going to pull backwards and round my chest. So stick it out, ease back, and can you see the shape of my spine? So I'm getting that kind of curve into the lower back, and then a rounding through the lower back. Now this is quite nice because it's really well supported. So even if we've got issues with the back, the range of movement is limited, but it's enough to get that little bit of a stretch. And especially at the moment where we're sitting down more, we're inside more, we're less able to go out and about. So this means that our backs can get quite tight. There's the last one. And so from there, I want you to go into that little bit of abdominal work. So I'm going to hook the fingers behind the legs. So this is our supported roll back. Using the legs to provide support. Round the back. Push the belly button away from the legs and roll part way back. Then use the legs to pull yourself back upright. We'll do that once more. So we're doing a total of 8. And I'm going to do 2 each time, trying to make it harder. So that's the easiest option. To make it harder, we take away the support and we roll back exactly the same way. Find the tipping point where it feels like your legs want to leave the ground, and then rise back up again. So that's harder because we've not got the legs providing support, and then rise back up again. Now, to make that harder still, we're going to stay in position. So we're going to hold it back, get that bum tucked right under, pull the belly button down, and then just move the arms. Let's just do 4 whilst holding position. There we go. And then rise back up. So that's harder because we're holding position. And then the last couple, so this is number 4, we're going to come all the way back, move the arms. Now, hold it there, just hold the position. This is number 6, is it, of our repetitions? And then we rise back up. Now, for the last 2 repetitions, we take away the support of the legs. So we roll back, hold position, and then I'm going to lift the leg 1 and then 2. Trying to keep really still. Keep the tailbone tucked under. And then rise back up to sitting. Nicely done. From here, sliding the legs away along the ground and taking the feet that little bit wider. Again, remember, you can pop yourself up on a cushion if you prefer. And from here, breathe in, and as you do so, bring the hands behind the head. Now, that might already be too uncomfortable, in which case, fold the arms. And we're going to go for a twist. So I'm going to turn towards you and then turn towards my grey wall. And as I turn, I'm trying to keep everything from the belly button down through my hips really, really still. And there's the work for the oblique muscles and a little bit of a stretch into the chest. The next step here is to take it to a side bend. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to face you to make it easier. So you can relax your arms if you need to. I'm going to bring my right arm or one arm up to my ear. And then I'm going to bend to the side and the same side 4 times. Now, if that's too much, You can have both hands behind your head, or you can fold the arms in front, because that's a little bit easier. When you've done 4 on one side, come to the other side and do another 4. Now, I don't know if you noticed what I did there, but I could feel myself starting to lean backwards. So I had to pull myself more upright in order to get that bend. And when you've done 4 to each side, extend the arms and twist. But this time when you twist, I'm going to take the little finger to the little toe. Come back to the center. Now, if you don't like that, again, you can have the arms folded. You've still got to lift and twist. And when you go forward, you're taking the opposite elbow to the opposite knee. Either is okay. Just depends on where you're tight, where you're strong, what feels okay. And again, of course, 4 to each side. So let's complete the set and then come back into the center. Relax those arms. From here, I'm going to bend both knees and pull myself up really tall, holding on to those legs. Now, it's up to you whether you do this or not. I'm going to just balance first, taking my heels, my feet, just off the ground. I've come off my sitting bones and I'm just about on my tailbone. Chin tucked in, and as I breathe in, I'm going to roll back and roll back up again. And there are only going to be 8. So if you don't like it, it's absolutely fine not to do it. Instead, just hold the balance, stay tight in the tummy, and we'll be with you in 3 or 4 more reps, ready to go onto our backs. Come on. And there we go. This is the last one. Now from there, I'll put the feet back down, round my back, and roll back and down. Great. So first things first, now we're back down on the floor. Don't mind whether you have straight or bent legs for now, but do be aware of your legs. Wherever they are, you've put them there. Check that your pelvis is facing the ceiling, that your hip bones are pointing up to the sky, and your tailbone presses into the mat. Then play with your rib cage until your bottom rib presses onto the ground. Shoulders down and away from the ears, and the nose pointing straight up to the ceiling. Recenter. So you want to find those muscles that we connected into at the very beginning. And when you're lying down, it's almost easier to do it. Pull your belly button down away from the ceiling towards the mat. Shrinking in at the sides with your waist. And that immediately is going to help you tighten the pelvic floor. So it's going to happen almost automatically. Now you've done that, try and hang on to it. And we're going to begin in exactly the same way as when we were standing. So breathe in and float one arm up into the air. Then take it out to the side and circle back into your leg. Breathe in as you take the arm up and out as you bring the arm in. Does that make sense? Inhale. And exhale as the arm circles back in. Now again, just like when we were standing, the range of motion is up to you. If you can bring your arm closer to your ear without your ribs leaving the mat, then do it. And on the last repetition, you're going to finish with one arm up, somewhere near the ear. Now, if it's comfortable to let the arm drop by the ear, then go ahead and do it. So I've got my right arm by my ear. I'm going to slide my left heel towards my bum and lengthen the right leg away. So now my left hand can touch my left thigh. Breathe in, and as I breathe out, I swap over. So my right hand can brush my right thigh. Now, as we swap, it's almost like you're marching, you're walking, really moving the arms. The range of motion with the arms is again up to you. What's important more than anything is that as you slide the feet, you're not letting that pelvis move. And that's the difficult bit, because you're going to want to, well, I certainly want to flatten my back. And if I'm not trying to flatten it, then it's rocking with my legs. So trying to keep the pelvis still comes from control at the middle. Great. Then finish with both arms by your sides and both knees bent. Sweep the arms out wide, left and right, palms up to the ceiling, and start to drop the knees from side to side. Just letting the back, oh, there we go, getting that little stretch. And we did this when we were sitting. We also did it the other way around when we were standing. So this is our spine twist, where we fix one end of the spine and we rotate the other on its axis. Equal number to each side, roughly 4 to each side, and then finish in the center. From there, bring the arms across the chest so that your arms are folded. My elbows are pointing up towards the ceiling. Where you put your fingers doesn't really matter. You can have your arms folded, you can have your fingers on the shoulders, whatever you like. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, tuck the chin on the chest, round the shoulders so the elbows point towards the knees. Then reach out towards the knees, and you can use the legs to pull yourself a little higher. As you breathe in, relax down and fold the arms. Breathe out, chin on the chest and rise. Breathe in and lower, fold the arms. And here's another little thing to think about, as if you've not got enough to think about. Watch which arm comes on top. So for me, my left arm always wants to go on top. The other way around was frankly illegal. But I'm going to try and do it. Break the law, put the right arm on top. And it feels really strange. And that just shows you the imbalances. Now we're aiming for 8 repetitions. And when you reach the 8th one, stay up. Hook one hand behind your head to take the weight of your skull, and then reach around the outside, pushing the ribs towards the hips and keeping the legs still. As ever, we'll aim for 8, so 4 to each side. Keep pulling the belly button down, down, down towards the mat. On the last repetition, I'm going to take both hands either side of the legs and lower myself back down to the mat. Then from there, we're going to bridge. Now, it should be nicely warm, so a full range of movement should be possible. But if it's not for you just yet, that's okay. Start in neutral. Breathe in to prepare. And as you breathe out, tilt the pelvis first. Peel the spine off the mat, little by little, pushing the knees away and over the toes. Breathe in at the top, and as you breathe out, try to manipulate the spine so that it lands on the mat, vertebra by vertebra. Even through those regions that feel a little clunky, try to control the landing. Let's do that another 3 times. Your tempo, it's your back. Now, all I can tell you is that for me, it's going down that I find hardest. Coming up feels nice and smooth, but going down, I want to drop my bum first, but keep it up. Let's get the bra strap onto the mat. Now, I've almost got to re-tilt the pelvis, pulling that belly button right down to get a smooth landing. So let's see if we can do this in the best possible way. You know what it's like when you come into land at Edinburgh Airport and you're anticipating hitting the ground, right? So that feeling of landing needs to be as smooth as possible. So there's the anticipation and then the control. And if you can transition smoothly, you'll get a round of applause from all the passengers. That freaks me out, gotta be honest. When everybody claps when we land, I'm like, surely that was a given when we took off in the first place. We're just gonna keep going until we ran out of petrol. Right, now take your time for the last one. You might need to adjust, and then once you're down, relax. Now, spread the arms out wide and start to move the knees out and in. And if you have been doing much walking while it's been really icy, we were talking about it earlier in the week, it can make your hip flexors quite tight because we tend to walk differently when we're afraid of falling. We tend not to bend our knees as much, tend to kind of be more staggery, almost robotic when we walk. That creates tension, obviously in the neck and shoulders, but also in the hips. So let's do something about that. Releasing the hips, keep the legs apart and bring the soles of the feet together. Now take a moment to address the spine. We want the back in neutral. And that means reconnecting the rib cage to the mat. Then breathe and allow the weight of the legs and gravity to pull the knees apart. Let's take 3 or 4 deep breaths in through the nose. And as we breathe out through the mouth, try to sink into the floor. Feel the tension wherever it is, whether it's in the hips or the inner thigh. It's like it melts away slightly. And then slowly, slowly drag the knees back together in the center. We're going to do a little bit more on that. And we're going to do that by bringing one knee up and over the hip and then lengthening the other leg away along the mat. If you pull that knee in towards you, it's like you stretch around the bum on that bent leg. Little ankle rotation, mimicking what we did when we were standing. And then as you breathe out, swap the legs over. Hold the other leg in and circle the foot. Now we'll stop circling the foot, so no more of that, but we are going to keep swapping the legs over, changing the stretch from a static to a dynamic stretch. Pulling the knee in nice and close. Stretching the other leg away and along the mat. Now you can keep that going, but if you'd like to bring in a bit more work, then bring the head and shoulders off the ground so that we get more work through the tummy. Let's do 4 more to complete the set of 8. And I'm going to finish with my right leg close and my left leg on the ground. Then straightening the right leg into the air, I'm going to hold on to the hamstring to give the leg a little bit of a stretch. Tightening the center, so pulling that belly button down to the ground, neutralizing the spine, open the arms and draw circles with the right leg. Now, ideally, you draw a big circle that takes the foot across the midline. And I'm going to do 4 in each direction. But if you cannot control the back and the opposite leg when you circle, then just reduce the range. And on completion, grab the leg again, so around the back of the hamstring. Breathe out and gradually climb the leg. I'm bringing my head and shoulders off the ground so that I'm balancing the weight of my leg with the weight of my upper body. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, swap the legs. And we're going to scissor the legs back and forth. If you want to put your head and shoulders down, then of course do it. And as we reach 8 repetitions, I'm going to keep that leg close. Lower the hands down the back of the leg until I'm holding the hamstring on the left leg. Reset neutral. So before you let go, make sure the rib cage is on the mat, tailbone on the mat. Then when you're ready, let go and circle that leg. Control is more important than range. And on the last repetition, bend both knees and bring both knees in for a little hug, just tipping the tailbone off the mat. So there's my tailbone right there, and I'm almost just lifting it off the ground. Breathe in, and as you do so, try straightening both legs. Breathe out and tip the tailbone. Now, if that's too much, go back to doing one leg at a time. But if you'd like to make this, rather than it just being the stretch, make it a little bit more work, then again, just bring your head and shoulders up and off the ground. There we go, pulling the knees in and getting both stretch around the bum and the lower back, but also work into the tummy. Here we go, last one. And then from there, I'm going to spread the arms out wide and sweep the knees all the way over to one side and just let them drop onto the floor. So now let's adjust the rib cage. So I'm going to just sort of manipulate my upper body until my shoulder blades are both on the ground. The waist feels a bit of a twist, and I'm going to slip the top leg a little bit further over. Now for me, this is very, very tight. I struggle with this stretch. If you're more comfortable with the top leg straight, then straighten it. If you're more comfortable with it bent, keep it bent. And if you need to reduce the range, then reduce the range. I just feel this right on that kind of abductor rather, on the inside there. Now, breathe. And as you breathe, try to relax as we get that stretch around the hip. On your next out breath, slowly drag the arm from the floor at the back up to the ceiling and round until eventually you clap your hands together. You move back. There we go. Now both arms out, and this is where, remember my beautiful demonstration of how to use a cushion. Okay. If you want a cushion, then actually, do you know what? If you want a cushion, then grab one. The hands are together. Breathe. It's a good job I laugh at my own jokes, isn't it? Open your arm and close. Now, you know this stretch is a lovely stretch for opening up the chest. It gives us a stretch around and about the armpit, but I'm aware that it might be a bit much for some of us, in which case elbow back is okay. Right? That's also all right. Now, last repetition, and we'll hold the arm open. And just go with what feels right to you. The arm shouldn't come all the way to the floor, but if you are struggling to feel any kind of stretch, then play with the position until you feel it. I find that bringing my arm a bit closer to my ear increases the stretch. And then we're going to circle the arm. So I'm going to draw a circle, just like we just done with the leg. We're going to do the exact same with the arm. 4 in one direction and 4 in the other. And this does the same for the arm and the shoulder as we just did for the hip. Yeah. Feel that range. That should release that shoulder joint. And then as it comes back down, just pause there. So now we've got to do exactly the same thing to the other side. So to do that, reset the knees one on top of the other. Roll yourself carefully over onto your back. Bring the knees with you. There we go. Now I'm obviously going to turn myself around in a second, but for now, start by just taking the knees over to the other side. Keep both shoulder blades on the ground and take the top knee a little further up. Remember that if you want to, you could straighten that top leg instead. Go with what you can manage, where you feel the stretch, but it doesn't or shouldn't feel like it's going to cramp. Okay? And once you've got that, pause in position while I flip myself over to the other end of my mat so I can stay with you. There we go. So now from there, breathe. In through the nose and out through the mouth, and try to relax into that stretch. Use your hand if it helps. I'm hanging on to this little orange chair here to try and keep my shoulder blade on the ground. And then as I'm ready, I'm going to bring that hand from the back all the way over until my hands come back together again. Now, start with the open and close, because that's just that little bit easier. So we'll do that first. Option, of course, to bend the elbow. Trying to keep the hips and, if you can, the ribs facing forward. Here we go. Now, when you reach your last repetition, then you know where to go. We're going to go into the circles, but first let the arms stretch. So you can bring it up towards your ear. You can maybe ease back a little if you need a bit more. Feel the stretch and right around the armpit and into the chest. If you'd rather have the arm bent, then of course have the elbow bent. And then when you're ready, start to circle the arm. 4 times one way and 4 back the other. Breathe out and in. And on the last repetition, we're going to have the hands placed together. Hang on, nearly with you. This is the last one for me. The hands come together. And from there, I'm going to use that side lying position to bring myself round onto hands and knees. Now, from here, I can put my knees onto the cushion. So if I'm uncomfortable on my knees, I can put my knees on the cushion. If it's my hands that are uncomfortable, I can always put my hands on the cushion. But if we're all good, then on your hands and knees on the mat. Cat to cow. Just round in the back. First one way. Oh, and then the other. Getting that little stretch up and back down. And that should feel really nice on the back. Then from there, I'm going to move forward a little bit so I've got enough room. Extending one leg out and squaring up the hip. I'm going to use that position to drive up and back with my other leg and then push my bum up into the air and into a down dog, flattening the back. Then walk the hands slowly towards the feet, or if you'd rather, take the feet to the hands. Now it's up to you. If you want to, you can roll up. If you'd rather just come up to standing your own way, then do that. But if you are going to roll up, then with me, we'll straighten the legs round the back and slowly rebuild the spine all the way up. And don't forget the neck. You want to come up through the scruff of the neck before you lift your head and reset those shoulders, just a little shoulder roll. And I'm coming back to the center just to talk you through the end. We're going to reset our standing posture so we remember what that feels like. Get it fixed in our head. So the feet parallel, 2 fist distance between them, equal weight in the toes and the heels. Now, what's it feel like this time to tilt the pelvis? A little bit easier, maybe. Keep it tucked under. Roll the shoulders back and down. Bring the chin back so that the ear sits over the shoulder, the hip, and the ankle. And the tummy is tight. Reset the waist, pulling the belly button away from the t-shirt, tightening the pelvic floor. And that is how you want to stand all the time. Right? Well done, guys. Excellent. There's our little session together this afternoon. Let me press stop.